All right, so now I'm ready to start creating my earbud holder in Adobe Illustrator. So I need to go find an image that I can use to trace that is copyright free and school appropriate. So I'm going to open a new tab and go to Images. I had already tried to look up some hedgehogs that I'd wanted to use, but can't really find any that I like. So I'm going to change my mind and do a unicorn instead. Okay. And so I just want to make sure that I come right here to Tools, okay? And under Usage Rights, I change that to Labeled for Reuse, okay? And then under Type, I want to change it to either Clip Art or Line Drawing. And you can look at both and see if you can find the type of image that you want to use under either one of those choices. I want something that already has big eyes, if possible, like this, so that I can cut out the place for those eyes to stick my actual earbud holes. So I don't really like that picture, that's a preference. So I'm going to look down through here and see if I see something else that I might like. Okay. And so you just want to find something that you like that you want to use for this project if you're making it for yourself or if you're making it for someone else as a gift. Um, you know, and as I'm looking through this, if I stuck in, that, remember it always pops up things that are not even related to what you chose. I might find another image that I thought was wacky or kooky or funny that I might want to use instead. Um, so you have that prerogative as well. You would just tell me that on the website page so that I would know that you were making that change. So I think that I'm going to use this right here and see if it'll work or not. I'm not sure if it'll work. He looks a little mean or a little mad, but I'm going to do this. This is on a site called Pixabay right here. And this is a site that has all kinds of free images that you can use and download that are all copyright free. See, they say free for commercial use, no attribution required. So these are free to use. So I like to try to find my pictures on this page to use if possible, just because I know that I don't have to worry about them being copyrighted. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click to download this. So I just right clicked and I'm doing save image as. Okay, and I want to save that to my um, folder for laser engraving. So I'm going to come back over where I had that at. And so let's see, I had a Mac folder and a tech for this year, and laser engraving. So I just want to save that in there. Okay. I can close out of that tab once I get done. I'm going to leave this one up just in case when I try to trace that picture it doesn't work. I can come back and see if I can find a different one. And then I'm going to come over to Adobe Illustrator. And once we have our file downloaded, we can come in Adobe Illustrator and open it by going to File up here and then Open right here. And then choosing the picture that we downloaded. Okay, so I'm not sure where that picture went, so I'm just going to type in unicorn because I know it was named that. Oh yeah, it wasn't in my downloads folder. That's why I can't find it. So I'm going to come down here and go to my Mac folder, tech and laser engraving, and there it is. Helps if you look in the right place. Remember to always drag your image off of the artboard, either over here to the left or above or below or to the right, wherever, as long as it's off of there, so that you can see whenever you trace it that if it has a white background behind it or not that you need to delete and get rid of. Okay, so I don't need all three of these, so I'll end up deleting two of them once I get them traced. I kind of like the option of having three there right now so I can see if one of them traces better than the other ones. But the first thing that I need is I need the actual shape that's going to cut out for my earbud holder. So the first way I want to trace this, and remember for you guys, right above your image up here, if you are clicked on it, you have to be on the black selection tool and have it clicked, and it has to show this blue box around it to show it's selected. right above the image, you should see a button right here that says Image Trace. In the newer version, they put it over here on the right. So next to yours, there will be a little drop down arrow, and you want to come all the way down and choose the one that says Silhouettes. Okay, so I'm going to choose that, and it is going to make a silhouette, and so I can see that these over here turned out better than that one for the silhouette. And then once I have it traced as a silhouette, I am going to click expand. Now remember, I could come and click that little image trace panel, which is up at the top left for you guys, and open up this panel, and I could slide my threshold to the right or to the left to give it more detail. Um, but as you can see, that's not going to help fill the rest of this in for me. Okay, so I am going to have to do that myself. So if you have this happen where when you trace the image, it doesn't fill in the whole shape as a solid black silhouette, after you click expand, okay, um, you can use the white arrow to finish getting rid of those extra unwanted areas inside, okay? We also need to use it to get rid of either our white background or this blue box that's it put around our image, okay? And we can tell that that's there by hitting Control Y on our screen. And if it's there, then we would have to delete it. So it's not on mine, but sometimes you guys will have a border around there. And if you did, you would just click the white arrow and click on those lines and hit delete, and it would get rid of them, okay? Same thing with the unwanted pieces inside of here. So these two images I don't want, so I have the white arrow and I'm just drawing a rectangle around them and clicking delete on my keyboard to get rid of them. I'm just going to use this one, okay? And I want to get rid of these pieces in here, so if I click inside where that hole is at and hit delete on my keyboard twice, it gets rid of it, okay? You can also hit Control Y and click on it over here and hit delete twice to get rid of it that way. And I always want to click Control Y and make sure all I see is a solid outline. There's no other lines or holes inside here. If there were, I would click on them and hit delete. Typically twice, sometimes you have to do that a second time, so you would have to hit delete 4 times maximum, and that is the delete key that is right above your arrow keys. Okay, once I have my solid black silhouette, I want to grab this image with the black selection tool, click it, don't let go of the mouse button. We're going to drag that black arrow over the tab that has our name on it, and then drag down onto the artboard. We should see a plus symbol next to the arrow showing that we're dragging something over, and then let go of it. So that will put the image on your artboard. Most of the time it will bring the image in and it will be larger than your artboard. And so then you can just click Control minus on your screen to zoom out in order to resize it to fit your artboard. So remember, when you're resizing, you want to hold down the Shift key and grab a corner so that you can resize it without losing the proportions on it, okay? And so I'm going to drag this all the way over here, okay, and bring it in just a tiny bit more because you want it to be as close to the edge as possible without touching the edge. And so this is where I can see now that I do have some extra whiteboard space over here for my artboard that I'm going to end up having to delete, resize my artboard to get rid of. Okay. So once I have this here, I need to create layers. And so I need to view my layer panel. And so you guys can go up here to view and um, not view, to window and get to your layers panel from there. Okay. It tells you that the shortcut key for that is F7. And that will automatically open up your layers panel. It will be over here on the right hand side. If this is not opened all the way for you guys, these two little arrows up here, minimize and maximize that so you can see it. And I want to name this first layer right here cut. So I'm going to double click where the text is at and I'm going to type in cut and hit enter. Okay. I also want to make the color for it as red. So if I double click outside of this, it'll bring up this little box right here and allow me to change this color to red because our cut layer is going to be red. And so this makes it a little easier to tell that you're putting it on the correct layer. Okay. And then I'm going to come down here to the right and see, I'm going to hover right here and it's going to say create new layer. It's the piece of paper that has a flipped up edge. I'm going to click that one time. It's going to create a new layer. And on this layer, I'm going to double click out here. I'm going to make this one blue. Actually, I'm going to make it black because that's what color this one needs to be. And I'm going to name this one engrave. Okay, and then just click OK. Now I have both layers I need. So I'm going to come back down here to the cut layer and click it to select it because on this I need to change this to where there is no fill color inside of this because if it's being cut out, nothing's being engraved or filled in. And black on the laser cutter means it's engraving something. So I am going to um, change this and turn this off by coming back over here to properties. For you guys, these two little boxes are right up here at the top left of your screen. Okay. And I'm going to change my fill color to none, which is the white box with the red line through it. Okay, so there's no fill color. I'm going to change my stroke line to RGB red. When you hover over it, it should say RGB red if it's the right one. Um, for some reason, this one is not, even though we went and set up our artboard as RGB red. So I will have to figure that out later, but it should say RGB red for you guys. I'm looking to see if any of these say that. So let me see real quick if I can get it to reset this. So I'm just clicking out here so I can get to my artboard document setup and see if there's anywhere in here that I can change um, my artboard to be RGB red. So I don't remember where that's at in here, so that's why I'm kind of clicking around and looking real quick. Edit artboards. Let's see if it gives me the option in here somewhere. Artboard options. I could change my orientation and size right here. Preset custom. I think this is just to do with sizes. Yes, it doesn't give me that basic RGB option in here either that I need for this. And so I will have to look and see. I know that for you guys, it's underneath your custom preset. For me, in this version, I don't know. I would have to go look it up because I'm typically using the same version as you guys at school. So I'm just going to go ahead and exit out of my artboard view and go with the color that I have to change that to because I don't know what else to do. Okay, so I'm going to click that and I'm going to just go ahead and change it to red. But remember on your screen it needs to be RGB red. You can see that it's a really thick red outline, but we have to change that size because remember on our constraints, it said that that size needs to be 0.001. And so that is not a choice option in here. You have to actually click in here and type in that number yourself. So I'm just typing in 0.001 and hitting enter so that it makes that outline. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see my artboard a little better. So then it makes that outline red like that on my layers panel that is on there. I can double check that it is on the cut layer by clicking this little eyeball icon right here, which toggles your visibility. If I turn it off, it should disappear like it just did. And if I turn it back on, it should come back. So that shows me that is on the correct layer to meet that test. And I'm ready to go to my engrave area and add in the part that I want it to engrave on here. Now I will be adding in some more cut lines for the eyes so that I can cut the holes in that as well to put the earbuds through. So I'm going to come over here to my picture and I can either hit Control Z and back this all the way up until I have my original image back, and all I'm doing is just holding Control Z down until it all comes back to normal. Or I could close this with the little X and reopen the picture, whichever way you want to do it. Okay, so now I'm going to retrace this picture again, and this time I'm going to trace it just by default, like what it does when you guys just hit the regular image trace button. Okay, and see which one of these I like the best for this because they're the same image, they're just different colors. So I want a little more detail for mine, so I am thinking that I'm probably going to go with this middle one because it's giving me the little nose holes and its hands right here, its mane, and its eyes and everything. So I may be doing like a combination of stuff. I'm going to click the image trace panel and see if I can get a little bit more detail Because see, it had taken its horn off, and I want it to have its horn, so I don't want it to delete its horn out of there. So it's not, you know, I kind of want it to have the little lines for the horn in there, which it's not doing a really great job of. And so remember, I tell you, sometimes it does good jobs with the pictures and sometimes it does not. So you just have to kind of play around with it and see if you can get what you want. Remember, you can always change the color. So like even if I use this one over here where I can see this solid color, um, then I can still use that. So I may end up doing that. I'm going to do that a little bit. So I'm going to try this and see what happens. It doesn't hurt to try. Okay. Even though I kind of like being able to get the little parts of the hands and stuff there, but we'll see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and just close this and click expand. Okay. Notice it put the white background behind here, so I need to get rid of that, which means white arrow, white background to delete the white background, but you have to click off of the image first to deselect it. So these blue dots and lines are not here. So I clicked off, so it deselected it. I'm going to come to the white arrow, click my white background and hit delete on the keyboard to get rid of it. Okay, so it deleted all those places. And then I'm going to take my image and put it over onto my artboard. Okay, so I'm going to hold down the left mouse button and I'm going to drag this up here over my name and drag this down on top of here. So sometimes when you do this, it's really hard to line everything back up where it was at because we resized it. And so a lot of times I'll make a recommendation to you guys when you're doing this that if you can't get it in exactly the right spot, okay, and you're gonna have to shift and click and get this all, sized down here, and you may or may not be able to do it easily. Okay, to get it perfectly aligned with where it was at before, you can try using your arrow keys to move it around and get it into place. You can see that my mane is still not exactly in the same holes. So one recommendation I make for you guys is that when you are doing that and you trace your image and everything to bring it over, so say that this was my original image that I used over here for my silhouette, okay, that I could tell it to resize this by using the scale tool so that I would know exactly what size to make both images to fit perfectly on top of each other. And so to do that, I would select my image and come up to Object, Transform, and go to Scale. Okay. I can check this preview box to see how much it's scaling it down. I know I need to get it to fit this. So I'm going to see what 50% does. And you just have to click off of it or hit Tab to see what it does to the size. And so that's too small. So let's try 70%. Let's see, 70 looks a tiny bit too big. So I'm going to try 65 or maybe 60. So it's hard to tell. So I am going to click OK and see what happens. See if that fits over here. So it's just a little too big. So I can always hit Control Z and undo, remember, to get it to the size I want it to be. So I am going to try 60%. Okay, and say OK. And so that works. That fits on there. So then I would know after I did my image trace as a silhouette and, got rid of all this stuff to make it just a plain silhouette and everything. Oops. That I could do this the same size. Okay, so then I could come over here and take this now, which I guess I should make this for you guys to real quick just to show this. Oops. Control Z. Okay, so like this right here. I know it's not supposed to have any fill. It's supposed to be red. So I'm just going to come down Look, there's the RGB red. I'm just going to come down here. And if it does this, you can double click over here on this one that says stroke click to put it in front. And then it will put it in front to make sure that that's what it's changing instead of your fill color. Okay. So I'm just doing that real quick to demonstrate to you guys how to get these the same size to fit inside of each other. Okay. Normally when you go to object and transform and scale and you've already done it, once it keeps that size in there, so you can just click OK and then drag this one over and position it in the same place as the other one. And so I'm just going to kind of zoom in some. Here, we'll just get rid of this one real quick and close out of these. So that way it's a little easier to see what I'm doing. I'm going to zoom in. So now you can see those are perfectly in the right position to engrave on here. So anything that's a red outline is going to be cut. Anything that is solid black, it's going to engrave. So whatever text you put on here or places you put on here that you want to be engraved, they are going to be just like this. Okay. So while this one's not exactly in the right place, I'm just going to kind of go with it for now because I don't want to sit here and spend a bunch of time on the video trying to perfectly get it positioned for you guys. Or I guess I could. No, I started to say I could replace it, but the other one was a different piece. So although it has made that one a little more. Okay, so once I have this where I want it to be and everything, okay, I need to make sure that this is all the black stuff is on the engraved layer. Okay, so if I turn this off, does all the black go away? And yes, it does. So I'm good. Then I need to decide, what do I want to keep here? Do I want all of this area engraved, or part of it do I want it to be not engraved? And so remember how I said that the reason I used this image was because I wanted the eyes, and then it didn't trace the eyes properly anyway, so that I could use them, you know. So I'm just going to back this one all the way up again to the original image, and I'm going to see if there's any way for me to get the eyes. Okay, so right here it does have them in this step. So basically all I'm going to do is I am going to copy those eyes, okay, which I can come over and select them, okay, and hit Control C. And then I'm just going to delete these. I'm going to hit Control V, and so it only grabbed part of that, so I need to make sure I have the whole thing. So instead, I'm going to click on this, and I am going to tell it to ungroup. So I'm going to left click this and tell it to ungroup so it separates the pieces so that I can grab one piece like this. Okay, so I'll hold down Shift so I can grab both eyes. And I'm going to hit Control C and copy, and Control V to paste these over here. And so then I'm going to need to size these down. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to measure your earbuds and see how big they are to know how big you want this to be so that your earbuds will fit through it. So if I hover over it and start to click to resize it, I can see the size pop up that shows me that that's only 0.25 inches wide and it's 0.46 inches high. Okay. If I can't get these to work with the size that I need them to be for my earbuds, then I can just come over here and use the shape tools and draw my own eyes into the size I want them to be by clicking one time on the artboard to bring up this menu and typing in the size for the width and the height. So I could say, all right, I measured my earbuds and they're supposed to be 0.275 inches, okay? And so I'm just going to type that in both boxes and click OK, and it's going to make me a circle that exact size that I could use for the eyes over here. Okay, so I'm just going to go with either one. I'm just going to delete that and go with what I have. Okay, so on this, I'm going to click one of the eyes and say that they were the right size. I would have to measure mine. I need these eyes to be on the cut layer. Okay, so anytime I'm trying to select more than one of something, I click it and then I hold down Shift and click the other one so that I can get both. And I could hit Control G and group them together. So now that whenever I move them, they always move and stay together. Okay. So I have both selected. I can see that they're on my engrave layer and they need to be on my cut layer. So it tells them to cut those out as holes. So over here to the right of my engrave layer, I will see a little box that I need to drag down and drop onto my cut layer so that it moves those onto my cut layer. Okay, again, I can turn my cut layer off to see that they're there. They are. And then I also need to make sure on those that they have no fill. Okay, so none. And they are that RGB red color. Okay, and that the stroke size is 0.001. Enter. So they are the correct size to be cut out. Okay. I could come in here with the white arrow and do any cleaning up that I want to do. I could delete things I don't want to be there. If I wanted there to be holes in here for his nose, I could do that as well. If I didn't want these little spots right here to be on the hoofs, I could get rid of them, but I kind of am going to leave them there because it kind of gives it that little, like there's light um, on it. And then I'm just going to leave the rest of this as open space that's being cut out that's not going to have any coloration done to it whatsoever so that I have a spot left to add some text because remember you need some text. Um, if I was making the phone stand for this instead and I use this same process, I would do all of this the same except for maybe make the eyes actually there. Then my other piece that I would make for the stand part that sticks through here, I could actually do my engraving on the stand instead of on the front of the on the back of the stand instead of on the front of the stand. Okay, so that's your choice. Um, I could also, if I want to come over here, like I said, and add in some more color, not colors, if I wanted to add in some other holes, like say I wanted him to have a nose hole or something, I could come over and do that. Make sure I did it on my engrave layer though. I could come over and do that and make it to where it is a white fill, and that would tell it not to put that color, not to engrave that part. Okay, so, and then if I wanted to make an exact duplicate of it, so he would have two nose holes and not just one, I can hold down the Alt key and click and drag, and it will make a perfect duplicate of it. Okay, so that I would have that and it would look a little more realistic. I mean, I could even rotate them sideways a little bit if I wanted to do that so that it looked a little more realistic. And that's just your personal preference. Whatever you want yours to look like, be creative, make it look how you want. Okay. Um, Last thing is just to add some text to this. So I'm going to click the T for the type tool. I'm going to click on my image. I want this to be a black fill color so that my text is going to show up on here. With this, you can use whatever font you want to use because it's being engraved. And so you could use a cursive font if you wanted to, a thin font, um, one of those fonts that has the different choices in there. So I'm just going to put be a unicorn. My puppy is up in the way and I cannot see what I'm doing. Um, so I'm just going to put be a unicorn. Normally I would put be a unicorn in a field of horses because it's a saying um, that says stand out, don't be like everybody else. But I don't really have room for that, so I'm just going to keep it simple and short. And then I am going to tell this to be whatever font I want and whatever size. And so 12-point font's pretty small when you're engraving stuff still. I think I'm going to do like 24 if I can get it to fit on here. It, like I said, it may or may not fit because, and it will also depend on the font that I use. So let me choose a font real quick. So, pick whatever. You could definitely pick something that was cursive like that, and it's going to show up just fine when you do it. Okay. And I actually kind of like that. There's a lot of spacing in between that. So I could also use my options to give it more or less spacing in between the words. Okay. The one that goes this way that says VA and has the lines going this way lets you create less spacing in between it. And this gives you, if you have multiple lines, lets you do less spacing between the lines. Okay. So choose whatever you want to choose. Pick a font that you like. Because like I said, this one's going to be a lot easier to do that with than some of the other ones that we've done. Okay. I really like that one. So I'm going to choose this one. Remember what your font is. Go add it to your website. Okay. So I see that mine's Amarillo. So right now I am going to come over here to my website and go ahead and type in, which I don't think I spelled right. There we go. And I'm going to change this to what I actually made mine to be now. Okay. So that way I have that updated. And I'll end up having to change my size too because it's not all going to fit there. Okay. 24 point is not going to fit on here. So I will move it down. We'll try 14 and see if we can get that to work. Okay. Which may not because of that exclamation point I put on there. So I may end up taking that off. But after you have your text chosen and you've made sure that it is on your engraved layer with everything else that's black, okay, you need to click it one time with the black arrow and right click it and say create outlines, okay, so that it has those little dots around it. When you hit Control Y, you can see that it's outlined like that, okay. You will have crossing path lines on this, but it doesn't matter because it's not cutting that out on the vinyl cutter. It is engraving it. So it doesn't see those lines that are crossing. It only sees this right here that's on the image. Okay. So I can see this is a little small. I want to keep the height of the text. So I'm just going to grab the edge of it and drag it in a tiny bit on both sides until I'm sure that I have it. I'm actually going to bring it just a tiny bit. So I'm sure that I have it inside my image. Okay. And do that. Get it where you want it, get it to look how you want it to do. I don't want it that close because it's attached to his mouth up there now. But yeah, make it how you want it to look. And then just double check everything. So the last thing I need to do is get rid of this extra wasted space on my artboard so that I, Ms. Vickery, will allow you to cut it out so that you're not wasting our materials. So I am going to go to, I'm going to click off of everything out here, anywhere in the gray. To deselect everything, I'm going to go to Document Setup, which for you guys will be up here towards the top right of your screen. Again, mine's over here. It's going to bring this box up. I'm going to click Edit Artboards. And then up here for you guys on the top right will be your width and your height. For me, it's over here. Um, I don't necessarily have to type the measurements in here for this. I can click this little square right here on whatever part has too much and drag it over, okay, to where I want it to be. And I'm going to see if I can make it just be a 2.3 and not have that extra decimal place and see what happens, which it looks like that will still fit. I can click the escape key on the keyboard or the black selection tool to get back out of that mode. And then I'm just going to move this over a tiny bit so that nothing's touching the edge. And there I go. That's my finished product for my unicorn earbud holder. Okay, I'm going to hit Control S and save, which I should have been doing all along because we know that sometimes things happen on the school's computer and we'll get just what I'm getting right now, not responding, and it may crash and not work and you've lost all that work we just did. Be awesome and get your project done on time, and I'll show you how to add everything you need to your website for the Create section.